Give yourself some love. Wrap your arms around yourself for a moment as the choir is making their way to their seats, and feel in this particular instant that you are a significant expression of the presence, that you're not a question mark, but that you are an exclamation point, a divine fiat of the Spirit, here to reflect and to reveal the infinite in ways that have never happened before, because you have never happened before. Even this precise moment of you is a different iteration of who you were a day ago, a month ago, a year ago, because of the imprints that have happened, the intentions that have been set, the prayers that have been spoken silently or verbally, the moments of meditation, study, and fellowship with individuals. You are in a constant state of change, not just going through changes, but real change and transformation, if in fact you have made yourself a part of the ocean of devotion of individuals who are intending their own spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment as a way of life. Meaning, you have moved from being merely a philosopher to an initiate and a practitioner of the truth. Many years ago, I went under the aegis of the science of mind. It was often called a philosophy, and I was always speaking up and saying, no, it's more than a philosophy. It is a way of life. We don't want to merely philosophize about spiritual truths and laws of the universe and things of that particular nature. We actually want to go into practice so that we become initiates into a higher order of being and develop a way of life that is about the unfoldment of our soul. So say with me at this particular moment, I'm willing to be initiated into a higher frequency of living. For real. Even now. So from this moment on, you're not merely philosophizing about all the sacred truths of the universe, of which the main one is unity, oneness with the presence of life and beauty and love and intelligence and the all that there is, but that you are creating within yourself a dynamic of transformation through spiritual practice. Our theme of the month has been, as you have heard, the mass celebration of the Christ, in which we've become increasingly aware that we are conscious that what is called the second coming is actually the second coming of the Christ is actually a mass celebration of the Christ that is revealed through community, through a global Sangha, through a global Pentecost, through an expanded awareness of that which is true, not through a singular individual, but through community that is worldwide. Whenever there are outliers, whenever there are individuals on the skinny branches of life, whenever there are individuals that have become an anomaly through the matrix, from the matrix, or through the norm, they're often branded heretics, they're crucified, they're killed, they're burned at the stake. Oftentimes women carry a frequency of remembering of being burned at the stake. Oftentimes men have carried the frequency of being crucified. And so when you look at Socrates and you look at Jesus, you look at Buddha, you look at Martin Luther King Jr., you look at Gandhi, you look at individuals who have been labeled way beyond the pale of humanity. They were taken out, you see. But now with the advent of the awareness that we have sovereignty over our own spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment over the last 30, 40 years, that which was on the margins has now become a part of the global conversation of transformation with epigenetics, quantum physics, quantum physics being the language of mysticism. Now there's an uprush of awakening as a practice and as a global conversation, meaning that the old paradigm can't kill us all. They may be trying, but there is a global awakening taking place, which is called the mass celebration of the Christ. Years ago, it was a singular being. It was Gautama the Buddha. It was Kuan Yin. It was Jesus the Christ. It was individuals such as that created a vibrational footprint of the next stage of human evolution as possibility. Now we're looking at a global Sangha, which means community, a global Pentecost, which means everyone getting to see from their own perspective the unifying awareness of the presence of God. All of that is occurring now. What else is occurring now? Because we are understanding in the quantum reality that two things can occupy the same space at the same time but vibrate at different dimensions, whereas in the Newtonian aspect of physics, two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. But in the quantum reality, we have a simultaneous hyper-masculinity of wars and rumors of wars and killing of people and killing the environment and polluting the environment and having phosphorus bombs, killing people and killing the earth, and all of the things that we read about from the reporters of the old paradigm, otherwise called the news, which is really called the olds. We see all of that happening, but at the same time, in the same space at a different frequency, you have people waking up to love and compassion and forgiveness and generosity and saying in substance, we must have a higher conversation where war doesn't exist at all. Not just a conversation of who's winning a war, but the stupidity of war, the uninvolved consciousness of war. That not just people are evil because they're in war, they're just unevolved. And so at the same time, you have both of these things going on at the same time, but in different dimensions. And so when we understand the mass celebration of the Christ, we're understanding that there's so many people that are the reporters of the new paradigm. These reporters of the new paradigm may not be in control of the mass media, which is a weapon of mass distraction, but they are in control of their own consciousness and are carrying a frequency of love and beauty and forgiveness and unconditional joy and generosity. And so when we say the mass celebration of the Christ, that would be called Christmas every single day. Every single day we are seeking to unfold into that dynamic. Are you picking up what I'm putting down here? Are you catching this? You see, so it's not just December 25th is Christmas because we all know that Yeshua ben Joseph, that individual that we love and respect was not necessarily born on December 25th. It's just a sweet thing that was created out of a wonderful pagan holiday and the seasonal turning of the seasons in order to create a religion to control people. However, we take the transformational teachings of all of the individuals who come to the planet to liberate us from the matrix, not to get deeply involved in it. And so today we're speaking primarily about mastering the mystery of darkness, you see, and coming to an understanding that spiritual growth, development, unfoldment is an acquired taste. It's not all about bliss and lights all of the time. Spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment is a transformational dynamic in which the old is dying and the new is being born, and there are at least two kinds of darkness that we move through. There is the darkness that happens when there's an insight and a revelation that is too big for the ego to hold. So there's what is called an ego blindness. Just as if you stare at a light long enough or into the sunshine, you'll become temporarily blinded until you can acclimate yourself into that particular kind of luminosity. That happens after an insight as well. If you pray, if you meditate, if you enter into some kind of spiritual technology and there's an insight that happens, it's sometimes too bright for your limited perception, and you're temporarily blind. You don't know who you are. You're kind of confused. It's like, what's happening? I used to know exactly who I was. I knew exactly what my life was about, but now I'm confused. And sometimes confusion is a very high state of consciousness. It means that you're operating with that which is dying and that which is being born at the same time. And so there is that kind of darkness that takes place. And then there's the darkness of that which is dying within you. And sometimes you're very, very holding on to that which is dying, and you can't quite see that which is trying to be born. And so all of that is to say, in substance, that spiritual growth is an acquired taste. In the beginning, it's kind of tangy, kind of bitter. Oh, I don't know if I want to do this. I loved it when I was ignorant. And I could just go out and just do what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying, in substance? But when you begin to grow, develop, and unfoldment, there is a transformation that takes place. And you begin to discover that oftentimes the strongest part of you has come from the darkness. The strongest part of you. Remember back in the day when a photographer, and many professional photographers still do this, they will take a negative and go into the dark room, and in the dark room, they'll produce a positive. They'll develop a picture from the negative in the dark room, and it will become a fully developed picture of Mother Nature, of an individual that they're taking a picture of. Well, oftentimes, that's what the darkness is. It is where you get to develop the part of you that is waiting to emerge itself in a very dynamic and a very magnificent way. And so, as we master the mystery of the darkness, we don't try to run from it. We become aware that on one level we're blinded by a light, or two, we're holding on to that which is trying to die within us. And then we begin to be aware that oftentimes the nightmares that we're having, whether we're dreaming and we're worried, or whether we're asleep and there's a nightmare, oftentimes those nightmares in the dark are actually the dream that's trying to come true, but it's trying to come through in a paradigm that's too small to hold it. And so that paradigm is saying, oh my God, I had a nightmare last night. Oh my God, I don't know what was going on. But in fact, because the universe is progressive and the Spirit of the living God is always speaking, and because your angels of your higher nature is always trying to emerge, and because there's a sweet whispering all the time of the Spirit saying there's more to you than meets the eye, there's more to you than you thinking that you're the son or daughter of your parents, where you went to school and all the things that have happened to you. There's something about you that's magnificent and beautiful, and you're playing too small. You're trying to fit into a paradigm that's too small. Oftentimes your dreams appear as nightmares. And saying, wake up! Stop sleeping! Stop trying to fit in! Stop trying to compare yourself to other people. And then, if in fact you begin to master the mystery of darkness in that way, utterly yielding, you do so by coming to an understanding that when that is occurring, eyes awake, eyes asleep, doesn't matter. You're wrestling, as it states in the scripture, when Jacob was wrestling with the angel, you're wrestling with all those thoughts that are emerging in a moment of transformation. A couple of weeks ago, I was wrestling. It was like I couldn't speak for a few weeks. And it put me into a moment of just silence most of the time, which put me into a kind of a semi-retreat, because I was on voice rest. And ordinarily over the years, I would have a moment of going away for a month and meditate. We'd have in-person meditation retreats, and my friends, Anahita and Aaron would bring me to Hawaii for a week. There was things that I did that were basically replenishing, but more than replenishing, very transformational in terms of science. But I didn't get that the last couple of years. We had, the pandemic, had all kinds of stuff that had to be responded to. But this put me into a semi-one. And into the semi-one, in my dreams a couple of times at night, I was struggling and wrestling with all of these thoughts. And most of it had to do with my mortality, because for some reason, all my friends that had passed over had been coming to visit me. Patty Ballard came, gave me a big hug. It's like, and she looked very young and beautiful, and she gave me a kiss, and Carl came, and Nirvana, and Dorothy Larkin. All these people were coming, and I was thinking, am I leaving? My friend Carlton Pearson had just left, and other people. I said, so I was struggling with my mortality. I was thinking, I was struggling. Okay, is it my time? Have I done everything I'm supposed to do? Am I out of here? I'm cool. I mean, I'm not afraid of death. If it's my time to go, I'm ready to go. No, but I don't think it's my time to go. Is it my time to go? I don't know. It was all this struggle going on, being comfortable if it's my time to go. But at the same time, is there more am I supposed to give and share and shine and glow? There's all kinds of stuff, and then there's people, there's personalities, there's all kinds of stuff you have to deal with in this dimension. There's perennial fundraising. There's this and that. There's all kinds of stuff. Am I ready to get out of here? Let me see. I don't know. Anyway, throughout the struggle of mortality, there came an utter yielding that I'm just getting started. There came a yielding of, no, yes, I want to be here. I'm loving my human incarnation, fraught with all of the challenges that are here and all the stuff you grow through. And but there was not, I'm trying to tell you something, that spiritual growth, development, unfoldment is an acquired taste, because you're not going to be happy even if you get everything you want, you think you need to be happy. Happiness is something that is within you, regardless of what's happening in the world of effects and the circumstances. And so what came through me was, Michael, make a demand on yourself and make a demand on the law. Do not make a demand on other people. Do not make a demand on politicians. Do not make a demand on anything in the world. Make a demand on yourself for your own growth, development, and unfoldment, and make a demand on the law of the universe to show up for you in a way that will take you into your next expression of wholeness and health and vitality and prosperity and sacred service. And so the message comes to all of us today. When we are going through whatever it is that we're going through, we have a temptation to try to make the world or other people or our politicians, who work for us, by the way, they think we work for them and that they lord over us. They work for us, you see. And so we make a demand on ourselves. You say to yourself, in substance, under the will of God. Now, let me understand this. Will of God means greater expression of life. The will of God is always for a greater expression of life. Theologians have dialogue for years. Well, what is the will of God? And the will of God is this. The will of God. Listen, make it very simple. God is life. And life wants to be lived and expressed. God wants two things: to be known and expressed. Okay? Basic. So under the will of God, you can say in something, under the will of God, I demand from the law more harmony and health in my life. Under the will of God, I demand more harmonizing prosperity and joy and bliss and ecstasy. So I'm not allowing my limited paradigm to determine what that is. The will of God is for a greater expression of life, which means I'm not taking anything from anyone. My growth and unfoldment is not diminishing anyone. My prosperity, my happiness, my joy doesn't take away from anyone, because under the will of God is for a greater expression of life for everyone. I'm mastering the darkness. Under the will of God, I demand from the law. You can demand once you obey. You obey through surrender, through silence, surrender through yielding, surrender through saying yes to life. If you obey, then you demand. Under the will of God, I demand from myself, and I demand from the law of the universe that everything works together for my good, you see. And so as we walk in that particular dynamic, we move through the conundrum of darkness. And obviously, there's two kinds of darkness. There's the darkness, as I just indicated, of transformation. And then there's the darkness of there being no light, because darkness in itself is not a thing. It's the lack of a thing. Metaphysically, I'm speaking about now. That you cannot take darkness and put it in the bottle and say, here's some darkness. But you can take a light, a candle, a light bulb, and say, here's some light. So that kind of darkness is merely the absence of luminosity. So as we're mastering this, we become aware that there's something about us that is so beautiful and so magnificent. And this is the thing. We didn't create it. You got to get this, because this is what the ego does. If you have an insight or a revelation, in a nanosecond, the ego will take it and say, mine. That's my idea. That's my thought. It'll snatch it and then limit it. When you become aware that every good and perfect thing comes directly from the presence, and you are its light bulb, and you're the thing itself too. And if you become aware that it's emerging through you, that you have emerged from the eternal, you didn't create yourself, you emerged from the eternal, and all of the beauty that's happening through you is coming directly from God. The ego can't snatch it. And what happens is, through gratitude of being alive, that develops a natural humility, not the flatulation humility. Oh, I'm poor and I'm bad and I'm negative. You know what I mean? You remember the story of the three monks walking down the street, and or maybe they're going by mountaintop. Who knows? They're in the Himalayas, and there's two senior monks and there's one young monk. And the senior monks, and, they're walking and they're saying, "I am nobody. I am nobody. I am nobody." And then the younger monk starts to emulate them. "I'm nobody, I'm nobody." And the senior monk looks at the other senior monk and says, "Look who thinks they're nobody." Anyway, it's not the self-flatulation of I'm nobody and I'm bad and I'm terrible. It's a humility of gratitude that gives you power. The power of the universe is flowing through you because you're aware that who you are emerged from the eternal. You didn't create this, but you get to be an avenue of creativity. So hear the dynamic. There is a mass celebration happening. There's a simultaneous awareness of that which is dying and that which is emerging. It's happening at the same time. You're getting reports of the dying paradigm on your news all of the time. You're seeing the hyper-masculinity of men at war, men killing, men taking land, men in colonialism, men taking minerals out of Africa and the Congo. And you're seeing, and I have to use the word men because we're talking about a hyper-masculinity, unevolved consciousness that has become normalized, where people, when they're caught up in the matrix, absolutely try to jump on a side. There are no sides in a round world. You see, you have to be pro-love, pro-beauty, pro-humanity, pro-planet Earth, pro-rivers, pro-rainforest, pro-oceans, pro-lakes, pro-all sentient beings. That's the evolved state of consciousness. And if you're on the verge of a mystical awareness, you're blooming into an awareness that we are all one in God. Jew, Gentile, Muslim, Catholic, whatever, Buddhist, whatever. We're all one in the spirit of the living God. And every path with heart takes you beyond the path itself into an awareness of oneness with the power and the presence and the love of God. I was thinking recently about the first time I spoke at the Saban Theater. It was many years before we actually started using this as a sanctuary. And I was invited by Brother John Rotz to speak because there was a big event happening here where they were pulling all the Hollywood A-lister directors and actors in order to inspire our Hollywood community to produce movies that were hopeful, inspirational, unifying, etc. And so he calls me up and says, "Will you come speak?" I said, "Sure." So he tells me, "Listen, you're going to do the comedy and Jim Carrey is going to do the wisdom talk." Now, I thought he was joking. So the day before I called him just to make sure that he was joking, I said, "John, listen, I'm going to come and you want me to do an evocation and a wisdom talk about all of this." He said, "No, Michael. Jim Carrey is going to do the wisdom talk. You're going to do the comedy. We're changing everything up." And I'm like, I still think he's joking. And so I said, "Really? Jim Carrey's going to be there?" And he says, "Yeah, we have all these other A-lister comedians as well." I said, "Wait a minute. Jim Carrey is there, and I'm going to get up and do comedy." He says, "Michael, I have seen you speak at Agape many times. You're a funny guy." I said, "Yeah, but I don't try to be funny. I don't put jokes together. I just be me." He said, "I want you to be you and come up and do the comedy." So I said, "Oh, my God." The day of, I still think he's joking. I call him again. And he says, Michael, you're doing the comedy. And he hangs up. So I said, okay. So I go where their comedy. I said, okay, I gotta need some material. So I go to the newspaper. That's where all the comedy is. In the newspaper, there was an article. The article was about these doctors who were experimenting with starting off with mice, and they were taking the feces from the mice who had healthy colons and putting that feces into mice who had unhealthy colons to kickstart the mice's colons. They had great results with this, and they were about to go into human trials. That's all the comedy I needed. I could see it now. Listen. I got some good stuff here. $30 a pound from a 30-year-old vegan. You could, I didn't say stuff. I said shift. Anyway, we got some good shift here, And so that was all the comedy I needed. So I went out and started speaking about the fact that humanity was so lazy that it was going to allow the fecal matter of a healthy person to go into their colon instead of their own self eating good pre- and probiotics, good fresh fruit and vegetables, instead of stopping the eating of fast food, which is called death row, by the way, when you see all those things together, they're going to put some shift in their own colon. They're addicted. And I thought about my cousin Norman. We call him Pete. I don't know why we call him Pete, but his name is Norman. So I'm in Washington, D.C., and I noticed, Pete's been a smoker all his life. He wasn't smoking. I was with him for a couple of days. I said, Pete, you're not smoking. He said, oh, yeah, I'm not smoking. I gave up smoking. And he'd been trying for a long time. I said, well, how did you do it? He said, I got tired of taking my cigarettes, smashing them up and throwing them down, and then an hour later looking for them to smoke. He said, so I put a cigarette in my pocket, and every time I wanted to smoke, I patted it and say, I'll smoke you later. I'll smoke you later. This is the story I told at the Savant. He says, and then one day became 2 days, became a week, became 2 weeks, became a month. I was just, had the cigarette there, I'll smoke you later. And the next thing I know, after a couple of months, I wasn't smoking anymore. Ha-ha! I'll show you how long ago this was. This was the second term of Barack Obama. I said, I got an idea. I want to send Barack Obama a picture of brown people and have him put in the pocket of all the generals in the Pentagon and say, we can kill them later. We can bomb them later. We can bomb them later. I say that to say hyper-masculine men are addicted to war. They're addicted to selling war implements and making a profit. Many of your senators out there are actually buying stock to war implements that they know they're going to pass the laws to kill more people on the planet. We need to give them something that says, we can kill people later. We can kill people later. We can kill people later. We want to grow out of business as usual, and we have to have that conversation. That has to seep, just as The Secret and movies like that brought into the conversation the possibility that we can we can embrace a higher destiny. Our destiny is not determined by circumstance, situation, people, places, and things. That our own thought and our own perceptions, our own intentionality, our own spiritual practice plays a big part in our own unfoldment. We have to enter into the conversation that there's something going on the planet that is unevolved, and that there's an evolution of consciousness taking place, so that we're in the midst of the darkness, the death rattle of an old paradigm and the bright light of a new paradigm that's blocking us from seeing, because sometimes the light is just too bright from our limited point of view, and that the nightmares that we may be experiencing may be our dream trying to come true, but it can't come true through a limited point of view. We're in that vibration now, you see. So that now you know what Maya Angelou meant when she said, I know why the caged bird sings. Now you know that there's there can be a vibration of hope that leads to faith, that leads to conviction, that has nothing to do with present circumstance, nothing to do with present conditions, because present conditions might be the birth pang of a birth of something glorious and magnificent, but we have to see it. Demand from yourself, demand from the law what you would want someone else to give you. Demand it from the law of the universe. And it probably will come through other people. Circumstances may change, but you'll be a sovereign being in the joy of God, in the love of God, even before any manifestation occurs. What are the 3 stages of manifestation? First, you have to think it and see it in your mind's eye. Second stage, you have to feel it. But you have to feel that it's already done. You have to walk in the feeling that it's already happening, you see. Third stage, action, meaning your behavior changes to match the feeling. And as your behavior changes to match the feeling, your actions change, your conversation changes to match the feeling and the picture you have in your mind. And what just happened? You changed. You changed first. You saw it, you described it, you felt it, your behavior changed, your posture changed, your face had more face value with more smiles, your actions changed, your reactions became responses from the eternal, and now you're walking the answer before anything changes in the world. That's power, baby. Now you're powerful, because out there can't determine you're in here. Your in here is determining out there. That's power. Now you're a powerful being. Oh my God. I want you to be powerful. I don't want you to be a wimp. You know what I mean? Spiritual growth is not for wimps. Spiritual growth happens when you're able to hold the frequency, regardless of how things are looking. You see, a midwife, when that baby is coming, it's bloody. It's all kinds of stuff happening. And the midwife isn't saying, oh my God, what's happening? It's a baby being born. They're able to hold that space for the mom, for the dad, whatever, until the birth. See yourself as a midwife to your own unfolding, and then as the mass celebration of the Buddha consciousness, the mass celebration of the Christ, the mass celebration of the Zoroaster awareness, the Sufi consciousness, enlightenment. We become a midwife to that which is trying to happen. Don't be fooled by what you see on the news. Always remember that what you're looking at, particularly in Western media, are reporters from an old paradigm. America is the most censored country in the world, one of them. They're battling between China and Russia. Anyway, censored. They're only reporting from an old paradigm. Who are you? Put your back up. You are a reporter for what's trying to emerge. Yes. A creative artist. Yes. Something that hasn't happened yet. Yes. Something that's trying to happen. It's the chrysalis becoming the butterfly. It ain't happened yet. But check this out. In that cocoon, there are imaginal cells of the butterfly that in the beginning stages, they're killed off by the immune system of the caterpillar. Kennedy, King, Gandhi, killed off by the old paradigm. Kennedy said, we're taking back our power. We're going to get rid of the Federal Reserve and give the people back their power. 7 days later, he was killed. Okay, let's just be real about it. So the imaginal cells, they start to proliferate. They become bigger than the immune system of the caterpillar. And then something else emerges. I'm saying there's a mass celebration of the Christ afoot. They can't get us all. As we all emerge, millions of us, Waking up to what's possible. Changing our behavior, our point of view, our conversation. Generosity, love, forgiveness, compassion begins to be popular again. And then a way of life. Peace becomes real. There's an emergence of a butterfly Christ consciousness. And I dare say it's happening now. For those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, it's beyond the imaginal realm. It's loaded and coded within each and every one of us. It'll wake you up in the morning. It'll keep you up at night. It'll make you wrestle with yourself until there's an utter yielding. Oh my God! Okay. I'm coming out of the matrix. Okay. I'm greater than I thought I was. Okay. Life really is good, even if the experience of it right now isn't tasting so good. Okay. I'm willing to see what I can't see with my eyes. I will see with my heart until it reveals itself. That's how powerful you are. But you have to move from being merely a philosopher of this stuff to a practitioner of it, so that you live in the dynamic of your continued initiation into the higher frequencies of life. It's good up here. It's wonderful. It's acquired taste. It's an acquired taste. It ain't all fun and jolly all the time. It's like, oh my God, can I get some sleep tonight? Oh God. Stop visiting me, friends. Are you trying to get me to come to the other side? Oh my God, is it my time? I don't know. It's not all fun and jolly. But if you have a spiritual practice, ultimately you'll be rooted in the awareness life is for you, and you have something to contribute. Here is the test for you to discover whether your mission on earth is complete or not. All of you, all you do is take out a small mirror, put it under your nose. If it fogs up, you ain't finished. You still got stuff to do, baby. I'm just saying. The caged bird is singing. Life is good. It's wonderful. It's magnificent. Because there's only one, and that's the life of God. Not a man in the sky. Presence. That's never an absence. Take a couple of things you've heard, practice, and you'll become a master of the mystery of darkness. And you will not curse it any longer. You'll say, oh my God, there's a big blessing trying to happen. It's got to be. Because life is progressive. So if I'm going through all this holy caca, there is something being planted right now. Woo! It's an oak tree, baby. It's an avocado tree. It's collard greens. It's something. And I'm going to stand in it until something grows through me. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And so as we're entering into what is called the new year, and be aware, according to where the cosmos operates, I probably shouldn't get into this, but it's, the way all of the cycles operate, it's really never January 1st. That's really the new year. It's really like 13 months. It's really later on. And that's really the new year, a couple of months from now. But we use this particular time because there's so many people establishing intentions. So you might as well jump on the high tide and say, Happy New Year. Happy New You. Let's be better. Let's be a greater version of ourselves. Let's support others and be a greater version of ourselves. But let's make the demand on ourselves and the law and stop bothering other people trying to make them make you happy. It's never going to happen. Your politicians aren't going to make you happy. Definitely not because... just stop. I'll just say one thing. Ever since They made that ludicrous law that corporations have the same right as individuals. They've been buying elections ever since. So the politicians are hamstrung by who gives them the most money. So they're supporting corporatocracy, not you. So don't trust in them. Trust in God. Look at the dollar. Trust in God. Why don't you believe that? Beckwith, let's go. Let's go in, Beck. Come on, let's do it, man. Okay. Everyone take a breath. Release. Let's start with our arms around ourselves again, because everything begins with us first. You may think it began with your parents. They may have imprinted you, yes. You may think it began with the environment you grew up with, and yes, you were imprinted by that. But there's something even before that. I say to African Americans, you had a history before slavery. I say to my Holocaust friends, the Jewish Holocaust, you had a history before the Holocaust. I say to my Vietnam friends, you had a history before the Vietnam War. We all have history before, things that happened in the world, and that history is the mystery of emergence from the eternal. That's where we have come from. That's where we have come from. Some would say we're on the way back. I say not so. We're not going back. We are the revelation of it here and now. Oh, Beckwith, be quiet. Just pray. Stop trying to teach more. You don't need to do all that. You got a whole other year because you accepted eternal. You accepted you weren't finished. So you got more time. So we stop in this moment and we give thanks to the great God of the universe that's everywhere in its presence. Closer than our breathing, nearer than our hands and feet. That's what Yeshua ben Joseph said. Closer than our neck vein, that's what the Quran says. Look for me, I'm everywhere, that's what the Bhagavad Gita says. And so we stop in this awareness, feel our oneness with the power and the presence and the love of God, and it is from this consciousness that I evoke the truth of our being. I speak a word, a vibrational frequency. That right where we are, God is, and I'm saying this for all of us because really there's only one of us here. One God, one power, one presence, one life. Each of us are extensions of each other. Each of us, as Ram Dass indicated many years ago, that we're all God in drag. That's what he said. I am you in disguise, you are me in disguise. We're all each other, projecting upon each other all of the good and the bad and the indifferent within us. We're going to take full responsibility for ourselves now. We hear Yeshua ben Joseph saying, as I am lifted up into these higher frequencies of life, I draw all unto me. I speak the word for each and every one of us for our divine wholeness, wellness, and well-being. Divine and compelling right action to take place in every area of our life. Every organ, action, and function of our being every whit whole, being the translucent channel for luminosity and wellness and vitality and vigor and regeneration and rejuvenation. It's all happening now. When? Oh, all of this is not in the future, it's happening right now. We may not know what the future holds, but we know what holds the future. It's the presence that spans all time. Let us be whole right now. Feel your own wholeness, intrinsic. Feel your own peace, intrinsic. Feel the love within you, intrinsic. Feel the joy within you, intrinsic. Feel the abundance within you, it's intrinsic. Ask from this space, how can I contribute from all that I am? Oh, you will be healed. Give me a taste. Give me a taste. Even though it might be an acquired taste.
In the path is clear and there's nothing to fear. All I must do is walk. If the way is straight and I've a key to the gate, yes, all I must do is walk. If I have all I need to sustain and feed me, I'm carried each step of the way. Oh yes, there's no need to wait, to wonder or talk. All I have to do is walk. Yes, I got to see it, feel it, then all I must do is walk.
Walk, walk. I'm going to borrow your consciousness for just a few seconds. From this expanded state of awareness, you can feel the intrinsic wholeness that's within all beings.